6 o'clock. We're going to call to order the meeting of the Pentucket Regional School Committee of November 26, 2024. So start off, roll call vote. Lana Grosser. Here. Emily Meyer. Here. Micah Hawes. Here. Julie King. Here. Chris Markins, not yet. Chris Redding. Here. Dina Trotta. Here. Brienne Walsh. Here. Emily Zaitsev. Here. All right. So for now.
Majority vote is 3.94.
Thank you. All right, consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second. Discussion. Okay, all in favor? That's everybody. All right, any subcommittee updates? Finance and business, sorry, I know, keep getting ready to go. Finance and business, no? Teaching, learning, accountability is not here. Okay. Policy?
Yeah, we met last week and we reviewed policy DD, which we will have some edits to. And then we also started our evaluation of the bylaws, just going through them.
Awesome, thank you. Community liaison communication?
Nothing yet.
Awesome, thank you. All right, public comment?
None.
Okey-doke. We don't have students rep, so superintendent's news.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. We do not have any students here tonight. We apologize, but it is towards the end of Spirit Week, and if you've not been around Pentucket during Spirit Week, it's a very, very, very business time. It kicked off last Wednesday. For students, if you walked into this building, I think seniors in Patriots gear, sophomores,
Celtics, Bruins.
Yeah, okay, Bruins, and so, a lot of sports things going on here. But tonight, just one of the big things of Spirit Weeks, you have the grades compete against each other. So you have the class of 25 versus 26 versus 27 versus 28. So they've already put together their videos, and I think those post out on YouTube. I think it's on Pentucket TV on YouTube, so after tomorrow, you should check those out. The students put these together entirely. There's requirements that they have to do. It used to be skits. Back in the day, some people here might remember that. I used to be skits, but as it turns out, students are clever, and during skit time, they'll throw a few things in there that adults aren't aware of. So that's no more. They're videos, and it's incredible what they put together. It's incredible what they put together. So there's the videos. They also have banners that they have to put together, and during the video, they have to meet all sorts of requirements involving a whole bunch of different people, teachers, and things like that. Tonight, they actually sit down and they compete against each other in a whole bunch of events. So when you were coming in, there might have been a larger number of cars. When you leave, I suspect there will be many more cars than normal. And if you peek out, just if you go past those tables down that hall and you look into the gym, you'll see there's war ball, dodge ball, there's all these competitions, grade versus, and they get points and all this stuff, and then tomorrow they announce the winner. Typically, and to not many people's surprise, the seniors usually win, although not all the time. And unfortunately, we have two seniors, Katie Hill and Gigi Power, are our student reps. So they will be they'll be very busy this evening. Also, just wanted to make a mention to the school committee, Chip O'Connor, who's been the Whittier rep for West Newbury for a good number of years, have written, and we'll get a notification from Whittier that he's not going to be able to finish out his term. His term ends March 1st, so we'll have to post. I know it's just a short term, but we all are aware that there's the Northern Essex Building Project, MSBA, letter's been sent to the MSBA, so the school committee will have to probably take in interested people to finish out his term, which may just be a month. I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. We do have to advertise that, and we will do so once we get the letter from Whittier. And last night, of course, was this first sports banquet. This year was the first year it was done all sports in the singular place. They had first a whole group in the gym, which was kind of nice to see all the kids, because we don't ever get to see kids from other sports go up and get their awards, so to see that was pretty neat. And then sports broke out to their own rooms like they traditionally would. So it was a big event. And then finally, I know Ms. Hughes, who's our middle school science teacher, next spring, this is not a school field trip, and we've had these conversations before, but she is going to be taking groups of any interested students. They're going to be going to Belize, and they're going to be doing all sorts of touring around there. I believe it's through EF Tours. So just another opportunity for students who might be interested to go and do that. Again, cannot emphasize this enough. That is not a school-sponsored field trip, so we don't have any liability on that, but they do that, and we get towards carries all that. So that is all the business I have for this evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, so we will move on to new business, and I will throw it back to you
That's
for
great.
the state of the school district.
So I just want to thank everybody for being here. You know, this is, I think we started this 40 years ago, right after COVID, 4 or 5 years ago, we started doing the state of the school district, just to kind of give everybody an understanding of where we are, where we're standing. And last year, we had a format that we'll use again this year. Because for me to stand up and talk, I know everyone likes to hear me talk all the time, but I don't know all the details and specific things that each person who oversees the department knows. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through and introduce all the different, each department person will come up. They'll talk about their area, and while they're up there, ask questions. If something comes up, ask them a question. There are a lot of slides, but my projection is, depending on how long Dr. Conway talks, maybe it'll be just an hour of what we'll do here. And I think everyone understands, once we're done, the school committee, and you're done with questions, the school committee will adjourn, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Manning, who'll go ahead and start the whole piece about the regional agreement. So, but thank you so much for coming tonight. I know it's Tuesday before Thanksgiving, definitively not the prime time to have one of these meetings, but your presence here is much appreciated. So that said, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Conway, who he oversees curriculum and instruction for the school district. So here. And you didn't even get an applause. So.
Yeah. Thank you. So I won't keep you here long. How's that? We'll move through, but we definitely have some things I think we like to highlight. You know, the schools, all the schools, we do a lot of different things in our schools, but our primary function is teaching and learning. Primary function is what the kids come in here and learn, and we rely on our really talented teachers, our skilled administrators, and the teams of people to do that together. And we work pretty purposefully and with intent around meeting specific needs of students, developing our curriculum and delivering it in a manner that's effective based on the needs of those students. So a few things, just to highlight a few things here. These are sort of advancing learning for all. And I don't know that all of you know this, but over 80% of our graduating seniors will take a class here before they graduate that makes them eligible for college credit. For some students, they may leave here with an entire semester's worth of college credits, if not more than that. But that is something that started a number of years ago when Mr. Seymour was the principal. He had a vision for it. We've continued to expand that. And it's a combination of advanced placement courses, which we've expanded as well, and the dual enrollment courses, so students stay on campus here and take classes here, and they get credits because those classes are designed around college requirements. And we also work with Northern Essex because we have some students who actually do what's called an early college program. So they spend half their day on campus, and then as their junior and senior year, they spend the second half of the day literally across the river. If we had a ferry, we'd be much quicker getting them over there. And they're at Northern Essex. And we've actually had students complete their associate's degree and graduate with a diploma at their associate's degree the week before their high school graduation. So pretty amazing, all the opportunities that we do for those kids. Our students with disabilities, and when Ms. Bacuzzi, our new student services director, speaks a little bit, they're performing around the 90th percentile in pretty much almost all categories and grade levels when we compare to all other school districts in that particular subgroup. And I think that's a pretty impressive thing. We've continued to invest in high quality curriculum and professional development. I think we made really good use of the one-time funds from ESSER. We knew we did not want to invest a lot of those funds in people because the money was coming to an end. And then what do we do then? So we did some things we knew we needed to do, but we addressed curriculum and instructional and professional development needs that allowed us to catch up from what was years of sort of a backlog of not providing our teachers with that curriculum. We go and buy a curriculum or a program. It's not the solution that teachers need, but it's the basis of what teachers need so that there's a lot more equity and consistency that goes on. What a fourth grader learns in Groveland shouldn't be all that different than what a fourth grader learns in West Newbury or Merrimack. And ensuring that we have consistent, high-quality curriculum is what allows us to make sure that that happens. And then the professional development so that teachers know how to use it effectively and understand how to make changes when they do it. We received over $300,000 in Innovation Pathways grants. Most of that is here at the high school. We have 2 innovation pathways that we have implemented. Along with it, the funding gives us time to plan for those. It also gives us an opportunity to implement and use capital skills, so equipment that we can purchase that we would never normally purchase. Well, we may have students in the 3 towns who want to go to Whittier and receive a vocational education. We certainly encourage them to do that if that's their fit. We have a lot of students who want to stay here, but they want some of that hands-on experience, and we have 2 pathways that we have implemented, an advanced manufacturing, robotics, and engineering pathway, and then a life science, biology, and biotech pathway as well. Both of those lead to some credentialing, and it's an opportunity for students who want to pursue those careers, either career or in college as well. And this year our focus, we have a 7-year cycle that we do curriculum renewal, and we are implementing the new PE health wellness and embarking on a 2-year strategic plan with Essex County Learning Community to build up our tiered social emotional programming. So these are some of the things we do to reach kids across the spectrum of learners. What has this done for us? Well, in 2017, across the district, our English language arts performance had Pentucket in the 31st percentile in the state of Massachusetts. And these changes that we put in is not a single change, it's various curriculum, it's professional development, it's tiered systems, leadership structures, and really leveraging the talent and skills that exist from our teachers and trying to make the best use and target the students' needs. And in doing that, you see a consistent increase. And of course, smack dab in the middle of this was when COVID hit. So just when we thought we were making some progress, COVID hit, and I think we had concerns. And you hear stories about the COVID slide and everyone falling back year after year since COVID. That is not what has happened here. And it's largely because of a lot of the work we've done over the last few years. And I give a lot of credit to our teachers and administrators for being mindful of that. So you see that consistent growth, and we actually believe we can probably rise to about 75th percentile. And it's not just in English language arts. You see very similar change in math, one might argue even more pronounced, right? It was in the 25th percentile. There was no district-wide curriculum in 2017. What was taught in 2nd grade in one building was dramatically different than what was taught in another building. In fact, from one classroom to the next in the same building, it may have been dramatically different. And that is what we worked on, is doing consistency, using data effectively, and leveraging the systems and the talent that we have in the buildings. And we see some of the same climbs here. Unique opportunities too. So we can talk about English language arts, we can talk about math. We all know those are really foundational. And I think we've done a really good job with those. We began enrolling students in these 2 innovation pathways. They are recognized by the Department of Ed. Students graduate with this attached to their diploma. I referenced those earlier. We started a robotics team, and actually our equipment, I was just talking with Mr. Danforth, Mr. Seymour, we have about $200,000 worth of equipment that was purchased via grant from the state. Things that might ordinarily look like they belong in a shop, an advanced engineering shop at a vocational school. We are installing them here in the building. They're a little bit smaller, but it gives our kids an opportunity to make good use of those. We started a robotics team. It's actually the top rookie team in New England, and they're sort of on the cusp of heading to the national world championships. We have re-engaged our foreign exchange, so our students are traveling globally. We certainly have students going to Belize as well, but we've reestablished our foreign exchange program with the GAP. We had German students here recently, earlier in the fall, and we'll be sending our students overseas soon. We are awarding the Seal of Biliteracy as well, so we are acknowledging the students here who are proficient in 2 languages or more. Some of those students are learning, they come to us having English, and they learn one of the languages we're teaching. Or, in some cases, they come to us and English is not their first language, We teach them English while also supporting and encouraging what is their first language. And they can graduate with a seal of biliteracy. We've done some other really unique things too. We're actually in one of the business education rooms. The DECA program as well has grown to nearly 100 students involved in the DECA program. That is our business and management club.
And that's run after school.
This is after school, but the classes here connect to it. So students are enrolled in management and business classes here, finance classes. I mean, you can actually see they're doing some lifetime financial planning. And our students here too, they compete regionally, they compete at the state level, and they compete at the national level as well. So a lot of unique opportunities for students to learn and engage with different things. And we've been recognized, I think, as a district. Obviously, the data is impressive, the student learning is impressive. This year, the district and the high school received the AP Silver Award, which is for student outcomes in advanced placement tests. That means our outcomes are better than they were the previous year. We're improving the performance of students. The year before, we earned the bronze medal. We also awarded the AP Access Award. And this is for improved participation for students who are traditionally not allowed to participate in AP classes. And we've been very purposeful about opening up access for all students and encourage students to do this. This is what helps our students leave here with that 80% graduating, having taken a college level course. Right? Our work has been featured in Kaplan Magazine, a national publication. Our early literacy screening process is used as an exemplar across the state. We have played host to, I'm looking at our principals, I don't know, 40 school districts. I see Jen Tierney, so a lot of schools, 40 school districts from around the region and all of New England have come to visit our schools to look at the way we're teaching literacy and math together. Regional state awards for music and drama performances, and our early literacy consortium grant, which is something we were awarded to lead with the institutions of higher ed in the region here. So we've been doing a lot of work. The good news is I think we get recognized for that work. The better news is our students are the ones who are actually benefiting. So I think, this is our AP Honor Roll, the Silver Award, and then the Access Award as well. That's it.
Well, it might be. No, that's fine. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Conley? All right. Well, thank you very much. All right, so we're going to and now I'd like to introduce Marcy Boccuzzi. Marcy is new to us this year. You might recall Dr. Jarvis was here previously. Marcy comes to us with an extensive background. She's run a collaborative. She was at North Andover, their director of special education there. And I know when the interview team, which included a couple of parents from CPAC, when we had that team together, we were incredibly impressed with Marcy, which is why she's here, but not just because of her interview, but because all the skill set she brings to the table and brings to Pentucket. Like it's, we try to do a good job of recruiting and picking, and I think we've done. Oh, I don't want to say anything too much. It's early, but we're very fortunate.
I had the opportunity to speak to the school committee last week about my entry plan, so like my first 90 days. So this is sort of continuation on that same conversation. But yeah, I mean, I started out as a paraprofessional in 1997 and became a director of special education in 2019, and pretty much have done literally everything that comes in between those two things. So feel free to ask questions. Just for an overview, because I suspect that there's different levels of understanding and experience with special education. When we talk about special education, we're talking about our legal obligation to educate students in the least restrictive environment. And that's something to always keep in mind. And when we talk about the least restrictive environment, what we're talking about is what we see in our classrooms here all the time. But what we're doing is that we're ensuring that students with disabilities receive an education alongside their non-disabled peers to the greatest extent appropriate. That's a value for me, and I think when I came into this district and meeting with the administration here, it's a value for this district, which is why it was for me, a really comforting next step. When we talk about least restrictive environment, there's a legal basis to it. It is our, like I said, it is our obligation, but there's also an educational importance because all the research shows that students who spend the majority of their day to the extent possible in inclusion settings have the best outcome. And that's outcomes for both students who receive special education services and students who do not receive special education services. And while doing this, we are accountable to the state. So 3 times a year, the state of Massachusetts asks us for data on things like placement, where students are, what their disabilities areas are, and they monitor us for any areas of disproportionality. And that if we are, which we don't right now, luckily, have any, but if we do have any of those areas that are disproportionate, it impacts our funding. So it's something we always keep an eye on. When we talk about special education, I want people to really keep in mind that this has evolved. But special education is not a place. It's a continuum of services. When I talk about placement, that just means the amount of services that students receive. It doesn't mean a placement like where students go. So, and when we talk about inclusion, and Dr. Conway talked about this a little bit as well, there's currently, this is based on October 1 reporting, when there was 553 students who received services in this district between the ages of 3 and 22. So 302 students are in full inclusion program, which means that they spend less than 21% of their time outside of the general education setting. And then it goes up from there. 97 students who are out a little bit more, and 65 students that are in sub-separate programming.
So just, it's an important concept to wrap your head around, right? It's, like Marcy said, there's over 500 students who receive services, 3 through 22. 302 students of those are in programming. So when we talk about programming, Marcy mentions programming. That was one of the things that Dr. Jarvis had focused on. We had a lot of students who were going out of district. And when they go out of district, the biggest detriment is that they're not around the peers that they're going to be in their community with. Yes, there's a cost associated with that, but there's a bigger social cost to it. So he had built programs, and 302 students, those are not classes of 25, right? Those are small.
These are.
Oh, those are classes.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, full inclusion, yes.
Yep, these
So-
are students.
So those
Yep.
those are classrooms where you have a teacher that's there who is now trying to differentiate that entire curriculum to help meet the needs. And there's so much collaboration that happens. And I would just point out, I'm just tying this back to what Dr. Conway said, when you look at the AP performance on Access, when you look at how the MCAS scores we're in the 90th, above the 90th percentile for students, special education students, that's a testament to the work that the special education teachers are doing collaboratively with the classroom teachers, and the work the classroom teachers are doing inside the classroom. All that happens, though, with support. And obviously, Marcy and Dr. Conway are huge.
Well, and the amount of co-teaching that happens in this district is pretty amazing. And when we talk about, if there's ever a question, and it shows that it's in the numbers, like ask, in multiple districts, what needs to happen in order to improve our highest needs learners scores in MCAS, and what you have to do is you have to get them in the classroom, and that's what happens in this district. So those are great numbers, and we always want to improve the numbers, but those are great numbers. So again, this is a continuum of services. So least restrictive to most restrictive within these walls. When we go beyond these walls, then we talk about the next least restrictive outside of, same thing. These are just preschool numbers. The state categorizes them differently. Again, the majority of the students, as preschool should be, are included for most of the day. We have 5 students in sub-separate programming. I'm sorry, that's in the wrong order. When we talk about placements again, this is out-of-district placements going from least restrictive to most restrictive. So we have collaborative placements, which is the next least restrictive placements outside of public schools. Collaboratives offer us a wide variety of resources. They do some assessments for us. They do some of our services. They do some busing. We belong to Crest Collaborative in Andover and North Shore Collaborative in Beverly. We have private day schools, and again, those are located all over the state, and we have residential programs. So we've seen different numbers in our district. They've stayed relatively consistent. We have seen a significant increase. I don't know if the cost of, across the board, the organization that creates the rates for our out-of-district placement did a blanket 14% increase on all out-of-district placements for last year, giving schools a few months' notice about that. So that was pretty significant. We are in an okay position because our numbers decreased slightly, so therefore our tuition stayed somewhat the same.
Before you go, we're just looking at fiscal year '25 residential. So $965,294. I'm assuming that's 2 students?
It's two, so it's hard, yeah. So without, it's hard not to give, I went such a low number of students and I want to give identifiable
Sure.
information, but it's 2 students who are going to be aging out. One will be aging out, actually, well, yes, one will be aging out, so that's not even full tuitions for one student.
Okay.
The average cost of a residential placement is in excess of $300,000 a year.
So that.
And I would say that average cost of a collaborative placement is probably in the 70s, 80s, and the average cost of a day placement is probably between 90 and 120. So, and that's not including transportation, and often at times not including any related services that they have, or summer. So, there's definitely a cost to the district. So, you know, when we talk about the importance of educating our students in the least restrictive setting, you know, we do have currently 35 students. We've placed 1 student this year. We're always looking to improve our own programming to reduce these numbers. It's, you know, somewhat challenging as you get into districts that are a little bit smaller. We have to have the capacity and resources to be able, and peer groups, to be able to provide services for students. This is another just ballooning cost in terms of special ed transportation. I mean, I don't know how many meetings we've had on problem solving around special education transportation costs. This is out of district. Actually, was this out of district or both? I think it's both. Both, in district and out of district. Costs. FY25 will be increasingly more than that. We anticipate those costs continuing to go up. We are do our due diligence in terms of routes and working with our surrounding districts to collaborate. We are in an area where we also have a legal obligation not to have a student on a bus for longer than an hour. So when we are where we are and schools are where they are, it makes it a little bit challenging. But so we collaborate as much as we can with our surrounding districts. And then this is in general 2 years of special education budgets, not including salaries. You end up getting that question, so I figured I'd put it in there. And just to go back, just in terms of slides, these are for me coming in, and these would be areas for any director of special education in any school district of areas that we want to continue to watch. Of course, our out-of-district placements and transportation costs. For me, again, being new, is to look at our in-district programming needs, staffing. If people watch the news, staffing pipelines in special education can be challenging. There are not enough teachers coming out in the world of education, particularly with licenses in the severe category, to meet the needs of the students that we have. I'm looking at professional development needs and collaborating, looking at our local districts to see if there's any pooling of resources that we can do to address some of those kind of resource desert, as we call it around here sometimes. Any questions?
Can you go back to the special ed budget, payroll for 24-25, yeah.
Knew everyone would want that one. That was a last minute ad.
That's it, I got it, thanks.
Yeah, and also, just important on here, that is the special education budget. The special education, if you look at any school districts across Massachusetts, it's going to be about 30 to 35% of their operating budget. So that amount there doesn't come close to what the overall cost is, so
And when I said those out-of-district placements, it was a 14% increase last year. And so now they have an additional 3.67, I think was the end.
it wasn't 3.67, it was lower than that, and then they came back and sent an email saying they made a mistake and it's 3.67.
It was 3.4, I think, at first. So again, on top of that, so administrative costs of those will be added.
And just a question, do we have any authority over them to say, please don't do 14%?
I mean, no, I mean, we stated our case on multiple occasions to anybody that would listen, but.
I think most people at this table did as well.
On the slide that showed the FY 23, 24, and 25 numbers, it was had the grid, that one there. So I assume 23 and 24 are actual, is 25 budgeted numbers, or how?
Budgeted.
I guess my question is kind of, when you start the year, you make certain assumptions,
Yeah.
things can change during the year, how does that play out? Like, how does that FY 25 number, that's what's budgeted? Was that where it's gonna end up, or?
Yeah, I mean, typically what ends up happening is we have students that come in, age out. We've had, I mean, just looking at the numbers, I looked at the numbers over 5 years, and on average, there was 2 to 3 students per year, even, they just in terms of like students who were graduating and students that were going in, 2 to 3 students per year who were added to the out-of-district, so I just based it on what the last few years were have been. But the unknowns around transportation or these things, I mean, this is the reality of what happens, and it happens here a lot. Move-ins, students that move into the district that we don't have a choice. We're gonna meet the need of what it says on the IEP without, whether, you know, we have the appropriate program or not, that's our obligation to have to do. If it is a private day school or residential school, and it's prior to April 1st, we will own that tuition for the following year, if not wherever they came from will, but if it's a collaborative school, we own it on that day that they show up here. So, I mean, and there's, you guys, and we'll talk about, there's lots of different placement needs here in terms of whether it's DCF foster placements, there's lots of changes.
I think that, just that point, that's why I mentioned that one cell specifically, because if we add one student into that fiscal year 25 residential, that's an additional 350 to 500,000 that was not in the budget.
So, and we don't, there's, I mean, you just said, we don't have any control over that part, but that's why you're working so hard on managing what we can to bring, to create programs or programming where there is a cohort to bring some of those kids back in
Correct.
district.
Yep.
Because then you,
Or not have them leave in the first place.
Right.
Yep.
but that way you don't have to deal with the transportation aspect nor the additional.
Yep.
Because otherwise there's nothing else there that we have control
Yep.
over.
Yep. Correct.
So I have two quick questions. The first one is the number in the parentheses in the out-of-district. What is that exactly referring to?
There was 2 additional students that went out in FY '23. There were 5 additional students that went out in FY '24. And to date, there's been 1 student that's gone out of
So,
district this
and I
year.
assume the numbers, since they've gone down, that's the graduating?
Graduating, aging
Okay.
out, yeah.
And then, so my second question is there, is this a natural movement to the least of the 3 expensive because of the services that we're providing? Or is that just a natural occurrence that you've noticed it's trending in that direction?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Well, you see how private day and residential have, gone, have gone up.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, have gone down.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, residential didn't, but private day had gone down,
Yeah.
but collaborative has gone up.
So, we always refer to next least restrictive first, which are our collaboratives. Why those, and we have good relationships with our collaboratives. Our collaboratives have grown their services and supports as well, so they're taking more students. But also these private day schools are not taking as many students. Everyone's suffering with the same staffing issues that all schools are struggling with. So over the course of, maybe the last, I would say 2 to 3 years, moving students to out of district has become a little bit more challenging because the schools don't actually even have openings for them. So I think the move to the collaboratives is because our collaboratives themselves, particularly Crest and North Shore, have grown in terms of their
They
ability
offer
to take.
more.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
I think, and I do think parents in this district have, Crest is in Andover, North Shore's in Beverly and West Peabody. I think parents in this district understand and value of wanting to keep their children closer in the community. When you're looking at some of these, and the majority of them for private day placements, we're talking, best case scenario, driving to Waltham, and people go to work, you're driving to Waltham to get to school at 8 o'clock in the morning with a child on a bus, hour and a half, 90 minutes, sometimes best case scenario on a daily basis. So I think parents understand that as well. That's become a big factor. Anything else?
I'll call him later. Oh, and now, our best public speaker. I'm setting you up for success. I'd like to hand over to Suzanne Wallace, who is our business manager, and this is your, you just, you hit the button to the right, and you're in good shape.
Here we go.
There you are.
Okay, so I'm here to briefly talk about the FY26 budget process and timeline. We've already started our internal budget prep with our senior admin and principals. They sit with Justin a lot, and we talk about hopefully presenting a level services budget this year. That's what we're trying to focus on.
What does level services mean?
Level services mean that we're trying to keep exactly what we have, but we realize that the costs will be going up. So we have a lot of variables. I know one thing is that we are going to be going with the GIC next year, but unfortunately they have projected a 10 to 12% increase. So we have that going for us. We have a bus contract that is finished up this year, June 30th, so there is an option to renew. We might take that road because going out to bid, I think, will be a much larger increase to the contract. We have 4 employee contracts to negotiate this year. I have to put out an RFP for the food service management contract is coming up this year. So there are a lot of variables that are coming up for us. And then, of course, we sit and wait for the governor's budget until she decides how much money she's going to put into the schools.
I'm guessing $30.
I'm guessing that we are still going to be at a held harmless rate. And my plan is to bring forth the budget books to the school committee on February 4th for you guys to present it to you guys to read and think about. We'll have a public hearing on February 25th. March 4th will be the school committee vote if they choose, and then it'll go to the towns. Do we have any questions? Yes, Wayne?
Just curious, 6 months ago, there was a lot of talk from the governor's office that Pentucket and a lot of associated regional schools wouldn't be $30 per student. They were throwing it out, and it looks like it's going to be doubled to $60 per student. What happened to that rumor? Do you know?
I haven't
does
heard that
Justin
rumor
know?
lately. Have you?
Sure, well, I mean, for fiscal, and I think you all understand, like, that's our budget process, but the state does not finalize their budget until whenever, like July, August, September. So we have to go, we vote a budget number, and we vote what's done at the time, and at the time, it's always $30. And then they look to see what funds they can appropriate, and I think it was, for this year, they did 104.
So it's about $170,000.
But moving forward, yeah, I'm expecting $30 is what we'll see. I mean,
That's what we'll budget for.
there's
You
just so
budget
many.
for him? You sound pessimistic. I'm optimistic. You probably get 60.
How's that optimism been working for
I'll
you?
beat this year.
Okay, so if anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Any increases that you anticipating, like in services, in insurance, utilities, like any something that you've seen, like this is going to be a big one for us?
Well, the GIC is a big one. I haven't heard from Essex Regional yet. They should usually around the beginning of December. Probably will go up as well. And then, like I said, we have 4 personnel contracts that we're negotiating, so there will be increases there.
The transportation from what my peers have hearing when they're negotiating contracts has been anywhere from 17 to 24%. So I think it's,
We have an option to renew with
Yeah,
CPI of December, which is around 3%. So I think that would be the better option to take
yeah,
at
and
this
it's,
point. And then there's special ed, you know, I have to build in that OSD 3.67% based on what we have right now. And then
our energy costs are locked in.
our energy costs, yeah. Doing pretty good there. Okay, thank you.
Good job. I think we all heard the kids cheering for you. They're getting loud. It's gonna be fun. So now I'd like to introduce, she'll just stand, I'm sure. But Catherine Page, Cat Page, and you want me to just play or you want to say?
Don't forget the intro.
I will not.
Okay.
I'm actually gonna do this for you here. Okay.
All right, so we're going to give you an overview of technology in the district, the state of technology in the district, and you'll notice that it's not just what you would consider traditional technology. Technology permeates pretty much every aspect, and you'll see cross-collaborative examples. Every department, every person uses technology. So we work with all of the departments, we work with all of the students, the staff, everyone. And we support all the technology in the district, not necessarily, you know, doing all of it ourselves. Everybody is using technology. So this is just an overview to give you just an idea of where we are right now versus where we were before. 100% of outdated projection devices have now been replaced with interactive panels and projectors, including many specialist program and meeting areas that previously did not have any interactive projection technology. Additionally, all of the schools are now using office lobby displays to provide important information to visitors, students, and staff. Classroom desktops, which were all over 10 years old, with some even older than that, have now been replaced with laptops and docking stations. All elementary Chromebooks have been upgraded, with additional cards providing one-to-one classroom access. The middle school maintains its one-to-one school-to-home program, and the middle school high school has additional Chromebook and laptop cards available on site. Grade 1 now has touch-screen Chromebooks, making technology more accessible for our younger students. And kindergarten classrooms, once limited to a few shared and outdated iPads, now have an iPad for every student. Not as a replacement for instruction, of course, but as a supplement to instruction. And to ensure that iPads are used appropriately, each device is outfitted with special management software, allowing teachers to restrict which apps are used, when, and for how long. In fiscal year 22, Bagnell and the Merrimack schools were upgraded from cable modem to Comcast leased fiber, increasing up and download speeds to 500 megabytes per second. And both the Page School and the Middle High School are connected with Verizon Fios. The result? All of our schools now have high-speed fiber internet, providing faster and more reliable connectivity district-wide. All elementary school servers, which are computers that store, manage, and distribute data, were obsolete. Now, every server has been replaced, and all of the virtual server software has been updated, ensuring smoother operations, faster access, and enhanced network security. Over 30 out-of-date network switches, which connect devices within the network, have been replaced. This upgrade provides faster, more reliable connections, supports new technology, minimizes downtime, and strengthens security. All access points which enable wireless devices to connect to the network have been upgraded, with more units added for improved coverage. These updates ensure faster, more reliable connections and support the ever-growing number of devices. All of the school's firewalls have also been completely replaced. These firewalls, made up of both hardware and software, filters incoming and outgoing network traffic to protect sensitive school data by blocking unauthorized access and defending against potential threats. And here at the middle high school, we use technology to enhance safety and learning. For instance, our campus is monitored by hundreds of security cameras for a safer environment. Key card access allows only authorized staff to enter, and a soon-to-be-implemented system will verify visitors' identities against multiple databases for added protection. The middle high school phone system is voice over internet protocol, allowing fast, reliable communication throughout the school. Our robotics lab provides hands-on learning in engineering and programming, preparing students for the future. Additionally, our video suite enables students to explore all phases of media production, from recording to editing. Our state-of-the-art auditorium is designed for performances, assemblies, and events. And other venues are available for hosting various activities like performances, competitions, and community events. In recent years, our district has implemented various digital procedures, including the following. Digital ticketing is now in place for all performances and sporting events, making the booking process easier for attendees. Students and staff now have a new portal that streamlines the process of finding and organizing their applications and resources. It also allows grades 9 and up to manage their own passwords, adding convenience and security. Our upgraded facilities and events management system now enables more efficient scheduling of school and community events. An online professional development platform allows staff to access tutorials and resources on demand. Staff absence reporting and approval forms are now processed online, simplifying these procedures. A new online enrollment system has made registration easier and more efficient for families and registrars alike. The district website now includes improved functionality such as searchable policies and handbooks and upgraded translation and accessibility features, providing quicker access to essential information. In addition to using monitoring programs like BARC for all schools and GoGuardian at the middle school, we've introduced a new vetting and approval process for online resources. This added step helps further protect student data security by requiring that all digital tools undergo review and approval before use. The Pentucket Regional School District is fortunate to have been able to achieve many of these essential technology upgrades and improvements through the use of grants, such as the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds 1, 2, and 3, along with the Emergency Connectivity Fund. These resources have strengthened our infrastructure, giving those we serve greater access to reliable modern technology that supports effective learning and operations. To keep moving forward, we need to regularly update our equipment, ensure reliable internet and communication systems, and continually improve our software and digital tools. By addressing these needs proactively, we can make sure that the district is fully prepared to support the evolving needs of our students, our staff, and the community that depends on us for quality education and resources.
Kat asked this classic side, any questions? No questions is what Kat just asked. Anybody have any questions for Kat?
I have one. Technology gets obsolete so quickly. Are we planning for that in the future from a cost perspective?
We are working on that. If we do have our recommended schedule of replacement, and generally speaking, most of the equipment is 3 to 5 years that you need to replace, and you can go a little bit longer, maybe, hopefully, you know, fingers crossed. So that is something that we are looking at, yes.
Is that included in your budget process for future?
It's in process, yes.
Yeah. When we sit down, and I know when Suzanne had gone over that earlier about where we are in our budget process, when we all sit down, it's here's what our needs are, here's what our wants, and here's what we have to get rid of, this is what we have to get rid of. Because you have to prioritize, because there's a finite amount of money. But it's similar for CAT and Tech Department. It's very similar to when you look at your capital projects for the buildings. Like we look at it and say, okay, what do we absolutely have to have? So getting the servers replaced didn't have a choice, like those things we just had to do. But yeah, it's one of those pieces as well. I know Mr. Seymour and Mr. Danforth will come up here in a little bit, but hopefully some of the work they do helps ease that financial part.
Just a question, how much was the grant that we got, that we used all the money? How much was that?
There were various amounts. You know what? If you go on prsd.org and go to our district department's technology, there is a technology plan there with all of the figures.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, you know, we have this grant, you guys did amazing work, which is great. You said 3-5 years, we need same money again. Is there another grant available that we can use again? Like, what are we, like, that's gonna be a lot of money that we're gonna need.
But there's gonna be some things like the fiber, we're not gonna have to do that.
No,
right?
no,
Fiber.
but like laptops and iPads, they do need new ones.
Yeah, the laptops and iPads, I think, are less of an issue. That's been in the budget. I know 7th graders, when they come in, they have a choice. They can go ahead and have a Chromebook, or they can use their own device, whichever they choose. And they don't have to use the Chromebook, they can use their own device. But those Chromebooks, I wanna say are up $200.
Yeah, about 300, and then there's, you know, the licenses, so it's about 300-ish.
Anything else? Sounds more exciting.
We're in the wrong room.
I know. Well, for now. All right, so now I'd like to bring up Mr. Seymour. Mr. Danforth going with you as well. Mr. Seymour, Mr. Danforth?
Okay, good. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. I'm going to just change it up here a little bit.
Yeah, there you go.
Stand it in your corner over there, Justin. So my name's Jonathan Seymour, Executive Director of Operations. Bob's going to join me in a moment, our Director of Facilities. And we're going to talk about 3 different areas. We're going to talk a little bit about transportation. We're going to talk about facilities and maintenance in each of the buildings. And then we're going to talk about facility use. So kind of how are these facilities being used by our community and beyond. So let's first start with transportation. There really are 3 major entities that we deal with in terms of transportation in the district. One is Salter, and they do the bulk of our transportation for school day, athletics, after school kinds of things. When Marcy was up here talking, there was a lot of talk there about transportation for special education. There's a major vendor that we use that's called Durham. They provide a lot of transportation for our in-district students. And then a recent venture for the district was the purchase of these 2 vans. So this was something that we'd actually talked about for a number of years. And one of the last things Greg Lebrecht did before he left was to purchase these 2 vans. And the vision was that we could really probably save some money by having our own transportation. So what we do with these vans is that they are used primarily for field trips, clubs and activities, athletics on the smaller teams. Think of like a tennis team, golf team, even like a basketball team with like 14 or 13 people could use one of these vans. And then some of our special ed programs that do some community work, they also use these vans on a regular basis. So we got them mid-fall last year. This price is actually closer to 70. I just got an update on that. But for FY24, we had 167 trips with these vans. And we calculated the savings, whether it was replacing a bus or replacing a van. And we definitely made the purchase price for one of the vans last year in savings, which was really great. So far this year, just tracking where we were in November of last year, where we are now, we're more than double in terms of usage. So these vans are really paying off in lots of different ways. They give the coaches, they give the activity people like the flexibility to control your own destiny. Sometimes when you're at the mercy of Salter, it's that you get the call, hey, the bus is going to be an hour late, like kind of ruins the plan. So coaches like this because they can control their destiny in terms of when they leave, when they come back. So these have been great. We're getting a lot of use out of these vans. So just shifting a little bit, and Bob's going to join me. We're going to talk a little bit about the facility and maintenance in each of the buildings. So this is my 2nd year in this role, and I just want to say that it's really been a pleasure working with each of the finance director or town manager in each town. They're always accessible. Whenever I need to get a hold of Carol or Rebecca or Angus, they're always there. And I think we've developed a good working relationship, and there's really two aspects to each of the buildings, right? There's the planning ahead for major issues, and then there's sort of day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month stuff that just comes up all the time. And so, we're in the midst of beginning the capital planning process where we're thinking ahead about some of those more major things, but then like on a daily basis, stuff comes up that we just have to respond to and deal with and work on. And sometimes those things are just minor and sometimes they're bigger. And again, that's where it's like we reach out and connect and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is something we're going to handle, or this is something that we maybe need to talk about how we're going to pay for. So, Bob, why don't you just mention something? We're going to kind of go school by school, but just maybe give us some highlights of some of the stuff that maybe we've done recently here at the Bagnell School.
All right, this is the Bagnell School here. My team did go through all the exhaust fans this summer in late fall, changing belts, motors, whatever it needs. We did work with the town this summer. We pulled out an oil tank that was abandoned and got rid of that.
Where was the oil tank?
The oil tank was down behind the,
Yeah.
where that is, right down behind, right here. So.
On that side, he was pointing to here. Right in that neighborhood.
Right here, yep, right by the circle.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we did that, and we did we put a safety door in for for lockdowns at the Bagnell School, and then just ongoing maintenance, filters, everything like that.
Yeah, and again, we're in the capital planning process. We've got some things that we've been discussing with Rebecca around some paving work at the school and also some floor improvements, replacing some carpets and replacing some, asbestos flooring in the buildings. That's something that's really, common in all of the school buildings. It's not really something that's unsafe. Encapsulated asbestos flooring under multiple layers of wax is not really a danger to anybody, but it is a good practice to proactively just sort of replace pieces of, a classroom here or there as you go. And then, before you know it, you've done, in fact, that's what's been happening, and at least half of the schools at least half of the flooring in each school has, for the most part, been replaced. So we're doing good work with that. Let's move over to Merrimack. We've got two schools in Merrimack, of course. This is the Donahue. So, Bob, give us some highlights.
Yep, Donahue, last year we worked with Merrimack to put in 2 new boilers, which were recycled from the old middle school, and they helped us install those. Of course, same thing as preventive maintenance, as all the rooftop units, exhaust fans, all this stuff. We have replaced some of the fixtures, old fixtures. That's what a lot of our work is, replacing faucets or rebuilding faucets and stuff like that, leaks and everything. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Very good. So moving over to the Page School.
Page School, this fall we are in the process right now of putting all LED exit signs up and getting rid of the old battery type exit signs.
Emergency light exit signs.
Emergency exit signs, yep. They're lighted up so they can see where you're going when power is out and everything. So, and we did have we clean the boilers here every year, but we had state inspectors come in. They have to inspect and we get certificates, and we had some kitchen issues, and we have taken care of them. We have compressors that are getting old, tired, and we just keep them running, and that's one of the things that are on the capital plan for West Newbury is maybe a new compressor for the freezers.
Yeah. Last cycle too, the town did a major upgrade and replacing the HVAC system that runs in the office area. That was a really big investment here at the Page School. All right. What's that?
Elevators?
So yeah, elevators is just sort of a constant piece, but yeah, it's probably worth mentioning the elevators. We did a lot of work last year with the elevators at the Page School, kind of a shared collaboration between the district and the town when they got to be more and more expensive. But at this point, the elevators are running, and we're doing some, again, preventative planning to have some funds there if we continue to have issues with them. You know, as everybody in West Newbury knows, the town is doing a great job right now with doing a needs assessment of the building. And so, you know, really looking at all the different aspects of it, and then, you know, going to use that to make some decisions about what happens in terms of maintaining, you know, this building as it is. So that brings us to the regional campus. So, you know, at this point, you know, we're really kind of, you know, we've moved in, right? We're in our 3rd year in the building. And we're really just kind of like finishing up a few punch list related items. We do meet monthly with our project team to discuss whatever remaining things it might be. We actually had a meeting about that today. And again, just some little things here and there that we're still chasing, maybe something that, you know, had to be kind of reworked after it was installed, something didn't work properly. And again, still working closely with our project team to keep all of those things up and running. But there is one other sort of item here that we want to talk about, and that is the central services building. So on this picture, it's this little building here, right? Which used to be attached to the middle school, which really covered the whole field. So this is really the only thing that's left from the old campus. So why that is there is because we made a conscious decision during the planning process for building this whole campus. We were at one point going to build a new admin building, and we decided that we should save the money, the $4 to $5 million that was in the budget for that, and say, you know what, let's leave a little bit here, and we'll come back and we'll renovate this space, and that's what will make our district offices. So that's really one of the major things that we're still working on. We have our design still in process. We're in kind of the final stages. We should have those plans soon, be able to get our building permit and begin work. The district records archive, which is kind of just this interesting little piece. There's this large archive of records that's taking up a large space that we want to use for offices. So we're in the process of digitizing those records, and then eventually we can discard them, and then we've got this big open room that we can use for offices. So that's something, you know, just that we're up to at the moment.
So what company did we decide on for digitizing our records?
Kat, what's the name of the company?
Content Center.
John, what is it?
Content
Seymour.
Content Central. So Content Central is the company that is basically hosting our records. To get them there, we are undertaking this project ourselves. Is that what you're getting at,
That's what I was
Justin?
getting
All right, he wanted me to say that we are doing this ourselves. What does that mean? Well, that means everybody in the district office, we have a spreadsheet, a calendar, and you sign up for 3 to 4 hour little time periods where you go over and you prep and scan records. So we are doing this ourselves, again, trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can, and having all kinds of fun at the same time, right?
Tons.
So that's a little bit about the central services building. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the facility use. So we just go back and take a look at this picture. You know, we're really fortunate we have this amazing facility. So what are we doing with the facility in terms of who's using it, when they're using it, how is that happening? And frankly, you know, if you look back at all of the schools, you know, all of the schools are used constantly. They're used during the school day, there's a before and after school program, and then in the afternoons and evenings, all of the youth teams are in these buildings constantly. And that is no different than when you get, sorry, going the wrong way. That's no different than when you get to this regional campus. There are just a few more kinds of facilities here that can be used. So I just wanted to mention what's happening. And again, I'll just keep going in the wrong direction. I'm not trying to make you dizzy. All right, so in addition to all of the youth programs that use the facilities all the time, or the town's using it for town meetings, or whatever it might be, the broader community is also using our spaces. And you can see that we're able to now bring some revenue in through rentals for different groups that are using it. So indoor spaces, that's primarily the gym and the auditorium. The outdoor spaces are the fields. And so you can see that we are slowly, you know, increasing the amount that we're bringing in. So from our gym and auditorium this year, we're expecting to bring in about 68,000, and the outdoor fields about 82,000. And again, this is after the high school teams use the fields, right? We are able to use them in the afternoon and evenings, particularly with the lights, where we can get other groups in here as well.
Mr. Seymour, real quick, how
Yeah.
much do we charge our youth leagues to use our fields?
So on all of the district websites, if you're interested in more information about this, every one of the district websites at the top says book facilities. You can click on that, and you can become a user, and your group can sign up, you know, request facility. But there's also a list of the fees there, and there's a 3-tiered structure for fees. So it's an A, B, or C. A is our community. and there's no cost for our community to use those fields. If there's maybe, so like, just get to drill down on that a little bit, it's winter and it's the basketball team, they're not paying to use, but on weekends the buildings aren't open. So you pay a custodian to open up and clean up, but you're not paying for the gym. And then for the outdoors, maybe your group wants to use the stadium and they want to have the bathrooms open and things like that. So you might have a cost for a custodian, but the field itself, there's no cost. And then you've got Tier B and Tier C, and Tier C is the most expensive of those. So it's a little bit interesting read if you're interested in a little bit more information about that. So this is the broader community. And then finally, this past summer, we developed some of our own programs and had them in place, which was really exciting for the first time. And again, you can see the building, we were in transition, right? We didn't have a facility. We were going from one building to the other. Now we're in place. And last summer, we ran all kinds of different activities. And I have just a couple of pictures here. This is the website. And then this is just, kids at these programs, whether it was an athletic thing or maybe more of a classroom-based learning. It was really exciting to have students here all throughout the summer. And so this is just kind of a summary. We mentioned that how much we've saved with the band, the inside spaces, the outside spaces, and then our own programming. So really, over the last fiscal year, we've had the opportunity to save or bring in some revenue and really help to support everything that's happening in our community. And we're really excited about what's going to happen next. So we're planning for what next summer is going to look like. In terms of our own programming, we're definitely looking to expand what we did. We're going to have some full day options. Most of what we had was more of a half day option. So we're really excited about the potential that's here. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have. Carol?
The revenue you bring in, is that all used for maintenance, basically, or?
Well, right now, it's going into an account that we could use for field replacements or repairs or things like that. Something happens in the auditorium, needs to be replaced, we need a microphone that got broken, we have a place to go for that. We need a new net for something, we have a place to go for that. And then eventually the fields have an 8 to 12 year shelf life, so they do need to be replaced at some point. So again, over the next 10 years, hopefully we're accumulating monies that we can use to offset replacements. Rick and then Wayne.
It's great that you're using the facilities for additional purposes and gain some revenue. I'm just curious, are these numbers all net or do these include any costs that you might
Yeah, these
incur?
do include some costs.
Yeah.
So, and it varies depending upon what it is, whether or not how much that cost might be, but there are some costs in these. This is the total amount that we've taken in. Wayne?
Rick stole my question. That's the gross income revenue.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Justin.
All right, so I appreciate everybody going through and everyone hearing from all the departments. So at the end of it, the question is, are we in good shape? So is our school district in good shape? And I think you say, sure, we are. Like when we look at what have we accomplished? So you heard from Dr. Conway. So our curriculum is in place. When we came, there was curriculum that was not consistent, not consistently done. You use the example, you go into a 4th grade class in one place, go into a 4th, and it's completely different. It didn't have to be in a different town, it could be within the same school. So one of the things we knew before we even stepped into work here was that we had to have some type of support. We had the talent, there was plenty of people there that wanted to do the right thing, they just needed the support to do it. So having the curriculum in full place is huge. You saw the academic performance, very predictable. When you take a district that doesn't have people that can provide support, you know what's going to happen. You put that support in there so that there's guidance on what needs to be taught, how it can be taught, and provide the professional development, you're gonna have that increase. I think the 75%, we talk about that, I know everybody wants to hear we should be in the 100th percentile. Yeah, that would be great. There's 75%, I think is probably a realistic goal where we should be able to climb to in the short, near future. That AP courses and the participation in those and having students from traditionally underrepresented groups being able to have access more than they've ever had, that's enormous. You just heard from Mr. Seymour, and when he talks about the summer programming, we know Cedar Dale closed. We know that there's a shortage for kids' place to go. You heard Marcy said this earlier, like a resource desert. We are a resource desert for a lot of opportunities for our children. So if we can supplement something I mean, I look around, some of the kids are outside playing, that's great. If they can come inside and learn and have an opportunity to be here in the school to do something they're interested in, if they're gonna be gaming, if they're gonna be acting, tech theater stuff, that's huge for us. That's huge for parents. It allows parents to drop their kids off. They know their kids are in a place that they're familiar with, and it's a benefit for both. The grants, so all that money that Kat talked about, bringing in all those grants, ESSER was a huge ability for us to increase our infrastructure. It was a good question about our infrastructure. When I came, I think the tech department was getting, I want to say $37,000 a year. I mean, I know people can say, well, you don't need good technology. Well, sure. I would just point out, my daughter takes her phone and she's doing the college thing now. There's not a single piece of paper that's gone between her and a college university. Not from her to them or not from them to her about if she's gonna get in or not get in. It's not how it works. But when I came here, I was given a laptop. Presumably superintendents on the table of organization, school committees here, and I'm below them. So you'd think, all right, we're gonna get this good superintendent, he's here, we're gonna give him. So it was either the tech department didn't like me, or, which is possible and understandable, or it was just what they had. And it was just what they had. I got an ancient PC, which was fine, nothing against PCs or ancient stuff. But I took it to a conference and it was it was a mess. It was just not efficient. And then I came back and you start asking a lot of questions. Where's our plan? How do we pay for this? What are you trying to get accomplished? And none of that was in place. Why? Because there was no one there to support it. There was no one there who had a vision. So having someone like Kat come in and be able to do that, and Mr. Buck before her getting started with that was great. But ESSER, for as bad as COVID was, we hugely benefited from it as a school district in terms of our infrastructure. Certainly with technology, but this building as well. I think you all understand that this building, $146.3 million, just always as a reminder. Put that out there today, it's going to be more than $250 million. So our timing on this was superb. And then just last year, we worked with PAT. We looked at stipends. So what we had happening was there were stipends that were in our contract. And within that contract, some of those stipends weren't being used. So the students were getting restricted, and administration was being restricted, and teachers were being restricted what they could offer. So we looked at that, revamped it, and now there's more money at the elementary, there was more money at the high school to provide opportunities. It's not an additional budget burden, it's the same amount of money. It was just wisely, I think the PAT brought it to us and we had a conversation. That's great, because now kids are able to do things and teachers are able to offer opportunities outside of the school day that they didn't have otherwise. So those are those accomplishments. What's going well, again, academic performance, the student opportunities after school, the facilities with the vans. We have conversations. Mr. Seymour and I meet every other week, and we talk extensively about buses and summer programming. We know, and you all know, there's a pot of money. What we're trying to do is generate money somehow in a way that's going to be beneficial for everyone. And if people are willing to pay for it, that's great. But when we look at some of the costs of what that transportation is charging outside, it's insane. I've heard two in the last week of $500 a day and $700 a day is what one group is paying for one of our collaboratives. $700 a day times 180 days is going to get you a big pile of money, $126,000 for one kid. So if we can find a way to go ahead and offset some of that and try, that's fabulous. And that goes into that next part. With the regional, Marcy talked a little bit about this, but we've headed up this for over a year and a half now, working collaboratively with the other school districts, the North Shore Superintendent's Roundtable. And just this past October, or last month, we brought the special education directors in. We used them last year to try to compile a whole list about what programs are you offering, and by doing that, they can find out, okay, well, if you're offering this program, we don't have to hire 2 new teachers or 3 new teachers to do that. Maybe you can take our student. So we broke up the round table into smaller geographic locations. So we're in a group now with Triton, Amesbury, Newburyport, Pentucket, Whittier, and Georgetown, thank you, Georgetown. So those 6 are our small districts. So now we meet in small groups because those 6 can talk. And what Mark said is very true. There's a transportation component, but there's also a reality. Like some districts don't have space. Some districts have space. So when you look at a district like Georgetown, they have space and they're in trouble. And Amesbury's in trouble. And Pentucket is going to be in trouble. And this is something you have heard me say, but it's the writing on the wall. It's just the way it's going to go. You'll see some quick numbers in a little bit. So it's not hard to predict. So because of that, when you look at the big cost, special education is a big cost. So if there's an opportunity for us to say, hey, Georgetown, why don't you run the 18 to 22 program, and then that will be Pentucket's regional program. It will be Newburyport's regional program. It will be Georgetown's regional program. So just opportunities to do that it's important, it's exciting. One of the key things, it's not going to happen overnight. You have to start off, it has to be successful. It has to make sense for the kids, it has to make sense for the parents, it has to make sense for the schools. So I'm going to do this right now, this last one. Marcy, you worked in another district before here. How was it like to work at Pentucket?
Thank you. As I highlighted last time, I feel like it's a extremely collaborative group of leadership, supportive leadership, communicative in terms of needs, but receptive in terms of like what people feel like they know and don't know.
And so that's one of the things. Like, we know who we are. Like, we are not trying to go out there and spend millions of dollars. We're not trying to rake people over the coals. We're partners. We are all colleagues. Our purpose is children. We're all in this because the children need us and we have an expertise and we want to provide that skill set. So sure, we may pay less, and we do, than other districts, but the climate that we can provide, the culture we can provide is superior. And I think that's been a big draw for us. So that's been going well. So just little vignettes here. Field hockey and volleyball went into the playoffs, went to the second round. You got all these different plays that are happening at the elementary levels. If you haven't seen any of these, take the opportunity to go see. They're fun. They're fun in a lot of different ways. Even if you don't have one, who's not one of your child, just go watch. And I know that Kat had highlighted this. Just go to prsd.org and click on tickets, and it'll list upcoming events. And you can click on get a ticket. But it's funny, and the kids are funny. And the talent is unbelievable. Our elementary and middle school band numbers are up. That's really important. Really, really important. Some of our districts around us have had to get rid of their band programs. We cannot do that. You can't go start teaching students instruments in college. You have to start early, and they have to grow and progress, have that opportunity. So with them increasing, that's been important because during COVID, obviously, if you were in 4th grade and COVID happened, you didn't have a teacher, you weren't playing an instrument. So 5th grade and 6th grade came in, guess what you didn't do? You missed it last year, so you didn't pick it up. So the numbers there are pretty small. And hopefully that will translate into more students participating moving forward. Student clubs, like we talked about that, AP honor roll, you've heard from Dr. Conway and you've heard about Dr. Conway about robotics. So we talk about Spirit Day here. All the schools do it. Why? Because it's awesome. It's really cool when you're a kid to be a part of something, to look forward to something, whether it's dress up as a Twins Day or whatever it is. It's just really neat. So all the schools are doing a great job, and the principals overseeing that, but of course the teachers are the ones the kids always buy into. So you all can't walk around schools, you know that. But if you do have the opportunity to walk into a school during one of those, you should do it. It is, you can't be an angry person and have that experience. So all the schools, all the elementary schools doing their field days, there's talent shows. Merrimack was awarded the Safe Route School, a silver award. We talked about the APX, and then ADL, Jed Foundation, NPY, and ECLC. You all know what those mean, so I'm not even going to describe them. Just briefly on that, ADL, you should know the Anti-Defamation League. They actually come and work with our students, and our students become empowered to work with other students about topics of discrimination, like the appropriateness, and just kind of being conscious of what's going on, which is not a common thing for high school students to have that awareness. The Jet Foundation's a very powerful group, and credit Dr. Conway for making this relationship. Jet Foundation was started by a dad whose son committed suicide, and he used that to help start an organization, the Jet Foundation, to help educate high school students and work with counseling staff to help prevent and reduce those incidents, and just to have an awareness of it, that mental health is a real thing. It's not an embarrassment, it's not a stigma, it just is. So you have to deal with it. You can't just push it aside or it just gets worse. MPY is Mass Partnership for Youth. We do adult programming with that. We do professional development used with MPY. They've been fabulous. And ECLC, I know Dr. Conway mentioned, it's the Essex County Learning Collaborative. That's teachers, it's administrators, superintendents. They get together and they just talk about different issues that are going on. It's funded outside. It cost us exactly $0. They have outside funding, and so those types of opportunities have been great. You should know this. We meet with these folks every month. And we meet with these folks every single month with the chiefs and the liaisons, because we go through different scenarios. And we want to make sure if something does happen, that we know, okay, what's the point, and we run through the scenarios, and then we debrief afterwards about what were the mistakes we made, what were the things we could have done better. But having those conversations is really important, because it opens up those lines of communication, so if something does happen, we know exactly what to do. And I think you all know this as well. The response the fire and police departments give us is exceptional, just exceptional. And every single one of your principals knows them, probably knows their kids and their ages and all that as well. But Mr. Seymour helps organize these now. But this is something we started a couple of years ago, because it just makes sense. And then these three folks, we meet with. If you don't like your picture, I apologize. But we meet monthly just to talk about where things are headed, things that are going on in the district, because it's important to stay looped in. So all those things are going well. So you start with the positive. So what are our challenges? Well, okay. Very important line. And I put this down here because I remember last year when we had, it was public hearing, I think it was public, we started getting a little snippy back and forth. Hey, you don't hate the players, we hate the game. And I think that very much is applicable here. It's not me, it's not you. It's just the game that we're in, and I hate to even call it a game. It's the situation that we've been put in. And we didn't put ourselves in this situation. You didn't put your towns in this situation. So it's just that I think we all have that mutual respect and understanding is where we are. So I just crossed out the funding for it because I'm tired of talking about it. It's not worth it anymore. Nothing happens. Raise your hand if you have not tried to talk with one of your state representatives about funding formula. Right? So you all have, and it still is where it is. So there you go. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore. What I am going to talk about is Project 211. If you have not sat down and watched the video, please do. When we get to the public hearing and the budget, we're going to talk about Project 211. By the way, the 211 is called Project 211 because those are 211 school districts that are categorized as held harmless, and you all know that means they get $30 per student. And that's because the way the formula is set up, it makes it appear that, oh, these towns have so much money, which we all know is absolutely absurd. It looks like we have money because what's one of the major factors? It's what's your property value. So great, I'm on a pension and I'm bringing in $35,000 a year, and I've lived in my house for 40 years, but I'm supposed to be wealthy. It's nonsensical. But listen to it. The most important line in Project 211, I mean, a lot of it's important. There's state legislators that are in there, there's superintendents. There is a piece about Pentucket and Triton that's in there. Pentucket and Triton are very involved in Project 211. I was told Project 211 is soon to become Project 230 because they believe with the new changes that 19 more districts are going to be added to the held harmless, which means all of your Student Opportunity Act money, all that other money is going to less than, I think, 20% of school districts. The other 80% are getting the $30 a student. So Project 211, one of the most important parts that you can hear them say is, I forget who's moderating, it might be Julie Kelly, says, just for your town people, it's not the superintendent, generally not the superintendent, which is a smart thing to say. Because for sure, it can be, but particularly if you're in a municipality, it can be a superintendent that's just like, yep, this is what we're gonna do. And Mars is right, this is Mass Association of Regional Schools, but those 211 are not just regional schools. They're municipalities as well. But it's not the superintendents. And to the school leaders, it's not the towns. It's the way things have been set up. And the way things have been set up, like, it's crossed out. Why do we want to talk about it if nothing's happening? So our challenges. Our budget from fiscal year 24-25 is a 1.04% increase. So I think you all understand, we can talk about numbers. When OSD does 14%, nothing goes up 1.04%. So when something goes 1.04% and those stuff's above it, you have to make adjustments. So we had to make adjustments. So we talked about Project 211. And by the way, 1.04%. I think what I was most shocked at last year was the decrease in regional transportation funding. I think that was the most shocking. I know it was 280,000 is what's in my head.
Wendy's got the letter.
It was over 300,000.
You can look at it.
So I think that's the most shocking to me. And I know Suzanne and I were listening, and when I asked them, or a lot of people asked me, I say, that's not our number. And they said, well, yeah, that's correct. I don't know how they came up with that, but it wasn't just Pentucket, it was all other districts, also the same thing. But that is crushing. But you take that with, and I think the school committee heard from the towns, like, look, we just don't have money. So 1.04%, when you have that, there's a little bit of a deficit. So the elected officials, I don't know the answer to that question. I understand and respect that they're general practitioners, they're not experts in education. But do they really understand what's happening? I can look over to one of our neighbors, and I can look over at another one of our neighbors, and it is not pretty at all for them. They have made some hard choices, and they're going to continue to have to make bad choices. Because what's changed? Nothing. So it's just a really bad situation. Mental health issues, that's a challenge. We talked about it, I just mentioned it. Mental health issues, I mentioned this at a school committee meeting. We've had more students hospitalized in the last year than we had combined in probably the previous 3 or 4. And many of them still out. So when you look across the halls of the counseling office, they're meeting with students all the time. There are significant issues. What's the cause of that? I don't know. I mean, we can all guess. Most of you all got one of them. When you have that constant stimulation in your mind and you're constantly looking at screens, does that change social interaction? It might. But I think Ms. Earhart's not here because she's out there. But I think she said of the 15, she can directly draw a line to technology with 13 of them. So.
And that's just this school year.
That's just this school year. And just so you know, this has been happening everywhere else, and we were not seeing that. Not that we weren't prepared for it, it's just that we weren't having those experiences, and now we are. And circuit breaker. Circuit breaker for transportation. Several years ago, 5 years ago, circuit breaker is supposed to be at 75%. And I believe it is at 75% this year, is the reimbursement rate. But it's supposed to also carry over to out-of-district transportation because the state recognized how expensive transportation was becoming for school districts. And you all saw that when Marcy put those numbers up there. But it was supposed to be the first year it was 50%, then 75%, then 100%. But again, like most things, including circuit breaker itself, it was subject to appropriation. So what does that mean? That means if we put the money there, you get it. If not, you get less. So we were not at 100% this year, whereas what it's supposed to be, I think we were at 46%. So that's just a punch in the face. But again, there's a supplemental budget that's out there right now that I know the Mass Association of School Superintendents is trying to get passed. We'll see if there's any success, but like most things, and I have to believe many of you feel the same, it's frustrating for us to sit where we are and to see nothing change, and for us to have tougher fights every single year to keep jobs, to keep services, to keep educational pieces. So it's been tough. So more challenges, so regional transportation, like I just mentioned that. We had to add a teacher this year, add 2 teachers this year, so not in the budget. So we had to add a kindergarten teacher at Bagnell. That we were in June, and I believe they had 68 students. So we had to add a teacher. And then for some unknown reason, there was a big movement of students into 3rd grade at Donahue, not from other places. Like, they were from coming, people moved in and had a lot of 3rd graders. So we had to add a 3rd grade teacher. So special education training, all the other increases. And then this has been a big thing. We had a meeting today, in fact. So students who do not live in district, their families thinking they're supposed to be in our schools, sometimes accidentally, sometimes they sold their house, moved out, sometimes they're doing it on purpose. There's a manipulation that goes on, and it puts the child, forget about us, puts the kid in a really, really bad position. So everything that angers me, that's the biggest thing, is that a child's being caught in the middle of this. But you clearly have to live in Groveland, West Newbury, or Merrimack to attend Pentucket. So we've had a lot more of those contracts. Let's see. I think we've had 7 situations already, and we have 5 more that we're working on. And we have what company did we hire to do that? It's Conway and Bartholomew. It's Conway and Bartholomew. So yeah, when we can, we get around to that and we look into those, because it's not okay. And then we have the 4 contracts coming up. So before we get to this part, does anybody have any questions for me?
I do.
Yes.
Just from like the opportunities of making money, and it seems like you guys do an amazing job with the summer programs. My daughter attended the summer program, so I'm definitely very interested into next year. I didn't see anything about like foreign exchange program and hosting, because that's where the big money comes from. Have you guys looked into that? Anything like that?
We do. So the German American Partnership Program is the GAP program. That's one that is between the German government and the United States government. Students pay, no one here's had a child go. I think we had about almost 30 students came here, but they're here for 3 weeks, I think it is.
But they actually come for the semester or come for the summer.
Yeah, so students coming here. We've not, Jonathan, where are you?
I was just wondering if you guys looked into it to see when the possibility.
Yeah, we've had it in the past. That kind of came to a halt, but I think the tuition that they would have would just be whatever our per pupil expenditure would be, which I think for us is just over $19,000 a student.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, this was a lot of fun, but I'm going to pass it back, Madam Chair. I am complete with this, so if you want to move on, and then I think they'll. But thank you all again very much, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? No? All right, I just want to thank everybody for coming, all of the town select board people, but also everyone who presented and everyone who came just to show some interest and continue to be involved in whatever way you can be. I really appreciate that, and I know the rest of the board does too. So, thank you.
But don't leave, we're going to talk regional agreements.
Yeah.